Morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Friday, the 7th of November, making this the news and events for Thursday, November the 6th, day 1352 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you live from this major European capital currently under siege. And I see the peeps are coming in. Hey, Lil Red. Hey, Daryl Roberts. Hey, Alice. Hey, Anthony, Tommy, Tom. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Carl. Hey, Richard Prexis. Hey, Eli. Hey, Colin. Good evening. Feisty. There's Feisty. There's Maddie. Hey, Maggie May. Hey, Guard. Hey, G2. Akron. How you living? That is kind of annoying there. There we go. You've been better, Alice. We all have been, haven't we? These are tough times, man. Hey, Big D. Hey, Gary. Hey, Scotty. Hey, Jan. Hey, Scully. Hey, Tisno. Hey, Roy Daniels. I'm doing okay, Carl. But we have seen better days. Boy, I'll tell you, watching these videos of these ICE raids from the United States is just heartbreaking every time. And I was listening to an analysis. Under the current law, Americans can't sue these guys. They are literally above the law. And boy, they sure know it. They sure know it. And they do not give a shit. They are jackbooted thugs going into American homes, citizens' homes, with no warrants, it's sheer lawlessness. You know, what these guys are doing in the United States, I would remind everyone. They are certainly not getting the illegals out. They are driving around with the children of United States citizens in the back of their cars and bringing their parents in for holding. It's insanity. It's a 1099 contractor brown shirt. You are not kidding. You're not kidding, TKs. You're not kidding. That's exactly what it is. And I would point out to everybody, that's what I want to know, Arna. It grinds my gears that these guys are Americans. I mean, give me a break. But guys, I would point out to everybody, as bad as all of that is, and it is bad, that is what life is like in the temporarily occupied territories for every one of the 4 million Ukrainians that are trapped there. And that is why the Ukrainian people are never going to accept the Russian occupation. Because they know that those 4 million people are being tortured, being beaten, being raped, and unalived every day at the hands of a system that sees them as nothing but in the way of the seizure of their assets, their properties, their very lives. I mean, it's a crime. It's a war crime every day. So my heart goes out to all the people everywhere that are suffering under this kind of authoritarianism. And I'm sorry that this Yana project has taken me so long to put together, but I'm telling you, it's going to be worth it. So I hope everybody will watch the Patreon. In the next few days, I will get that published. And it'll be a project that we can do together that I believe is potentially very meaningful. Okay. So again, I want to thank Arna, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. We actually don't have a sponsor tonight, but Arn gave me some cash a while ago and said, anytime you don't have a sponsor, just use up one of these. And I really appreciate it. But we have no sponsor for tomorrow or next week. It does seem like the economy is slowing, and you can feel it. You can feel it. I can feel it anyway. Okay, so now, last night's overnight missile and drone attacks, we saw 135 drones launched at the territory of Ukraine. 108 of them were taken out. That's about about an 80% interception rate. Now, it may be that we will see some slowing of drone attacks on Ukraine. We don't know, but the reason I say that is because in last night's overnight strikes, the Ukrainians hit a pre-launch drone facility that was also a fuel depot and ammunition dump just outside of Donetsk. Holy shit. When they hit this thing, you can see in the video, and such a Mimas posted the video on YouTube for anybody who wants to see it. But you can see the compressed air of the blast wave as it expands around there, and then the camera shaking as it hits the camera. It's quite a hit. Now, the Ukrainians are reporting that in this attack on this pre-launch UAV site, they claim that there were as many as 1,000 Geron 2s, the jet-powered drones, the Shahed variant that Russia builds. As many as 1,000 of them, and as many as 1,500 warheads. Right? So this is a pre-launch facility. The drones come in from the factory in Yalabuga. They don't have a warhead attached. You attach the warhead, and then you put them into the launch rails. And they go from there. According to Robert Magyar of Magyar's Birds, this was a combined operation of the Birds and the 414 Separate Assault Brigade Special Operations Forces that was painstakingly planned for months. The target was first identified months ago, and then little bits of information were painstakingly acquired in order to strike this target at a time when it was loaded with drones and warheads. And it seems to have been a very successful strike. As we say, the strike also encompassed an ammunition depot and fuel depot. Now, this strike was on a location that is only 70 kilometers from Pokrovk. You can be sure that the ammunition at that depot was intended for Pokrovk, and it's never going to get there. The cook-off lasted for hours after this. Just today, early this morning, the Russians struck a power substation that provides the power for 8 coal mines. About 2,600 coal miners have been trapped below ground all day since the Russians struck this power plant. Now, or power substation rather. Now, dig it. There have been no fatalities, not even any injuries to the best of my knowledge. And the miners have manual means of extraction. And so the guys are coming up. It appears that everybody is fine. But initially, as many as 2,600 miners were trapped down underground in the Dnipropetrovsk region. In Pokrovsk itself, what are we seeing, and what has been the practical cost to Russia of the Pokrovsk offensive? Now, bear in mind that since Russia took Avdiivka 21 months ago, they have taken not a single strategic town. Villages, small villages, 300, 600 people living in them. Tree lines, fields, bullshit. Not a single town of any substantial size or a single strategic target in 21 months. Today, the 425th Separate Assault Brigade, the Scholar Regiment, cleared the city council building inside Pokrovk and raised the flag. Now, we don't know if that was just performative or if it means they're really in control there. It does appear that Pokrovk is embroiled in sheer chaos. We have talked about the fact that the initial 200 Russian soldiers that entered the town came in small infiltration groups, slipping in between Ukrainian positions to get inside the town, and were therefore cut off from the main body of the Russian force. That no longer appears to be the case. The southern Ukrainian positions seem to have been overwhelmed by Russians at this time, and the Russians in the city are now once again connected to the main body of Russian forces, and Russian forces are flooding, by some accounts, into the city. The Ukrainians, for their part, are holding their own, but it's unclear exactly what the plan is. What did I do with that? Sorry. I thought that was right there. Do I not have any of this written down? Come on, you. Okay, here it is. Sorry about that. The Ukrainians strategically seem to be executing a diversionary counteroffensive in the Dobropilla direction. So in Dobropilla, we know that there are these pockets of surrounded Russian troops, right? What the Ukrainians have done is they have poured all their reserves. Hundreds of drones are said to be swarming in the air over these cauldrons where the Russians are trapped. And as of today, 3 of the 4 cauldrons have been cleared. There are reports that as many as hundreds of Russians have surrendered. Now, I want to point out, when the Russian propaganda machine runs its mouth and tells its lies, it's almost always making claims that either are a confession for itself. Well, let's just say they're confessions. So what was the Russian propaganda machine saying last week? Putin said he would call a ceasefire in Pokrovk and let journalists go interview poor surrounded Ukrainians, right? Tell them to surrender. There are no surrounded Ukrainians. That is not a thing. That is not an offer that anybody could make because it's not reflective of the reality on the ground. What is the reality on the ground, or was, is that lots of Russian troops were in the cauldron, surrounded north and east of Dobropilla, potentially thousands of them. The videos from those areas are terrible, guys. It's one of the reasons that I haven't put out videos I can't use on TikTok this week, because all the video I'm seeing, the Telegram channels are full of just dead bodies and executions. It's a very bad situation. And it's not just bad for the Russians. I'm not suggesting that. I'm certain that is an extremely difficult situation for the Ukrainians as well. But the videos of Russian bodies just strewn, it's not good. And the reality is that the Ukrainians have now cleared those areas. They sent in drones with loudspeakers that gave instructions for surrender. And we're being told that those instructions were followed by many starving Russian soldiers who have been trapped in these cauldrons for weeks now. So those areas have been cleared. The last remaining pocket has been cut in half in size. And now the main body of Ukrainian forces are coming up against the main body of Russian forces north of Dobropilla. This was of great concern to Russian commanders who had been trying to rescue those trapped Russian soldiers for weeks, unsuccessfully. We saw several large armored assaults against the region, defeated by the Ukrainians. We saw another one today in a desperate effort to try to save those Russian soldiers and reestablish control over those frontline areas. Russian commanders sent a large armored column in the Shkova direction toward the encircled, embattled Russians. The column was defeated, but not so much by the Ukrainians as much as by the mud season. They ran into a bog, basically, and sank the entire column. The entire column gets moored in the Ukrainian mud. And so what happens? HIMARS strikes get called in. Artillery strikes get called in. Drones get called in. The entire column and the dismounted infantry were decimated. The equipment was all destroyed. There were no survivors at all. Now, we seem to have this balancing act, right? The Russians are coming into Pokrovk from the southwest. In the northeast, the Ukrainians are pushing the Russians back. The Russian command is concerned about this, so not only did they send the armored assault, but they are pulling reserves from southern Pokrovk up to northern Pokrovk, trying to plug the holes and slow down the Ukrainian advance. So there is this imbalanced act going on where the Russians are trying to push from the southeast, or from the southwest and the northeast, and the Ukrainians are clearly pushing them back in the northeast. Pokrovk is very much under a fog of war. We don't know precisely what is happening there. It's a desperate, deadly situation for both sides. The presence of President Zelensky, General Syrskyi, and General Budanov, all in Pokrovk in recent days, I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. Like, what are they doing there, risking their lives that close to the front line? Clearly, there's a morale boost for the troops, right, to get some awards from the president at a critical time like this. That's got to pump them up. But also, it seems like Syrskyi and Budanov wouldn't be there unless they were coordinating the execution of some kind of major movement. We just don't know what that is. It could be an orderly retreat under fire. Even just what they did, those assault groups in the northeast, they cleared the Minrograd road. Is it possible that rather than bringing troops in and resupplying everybody in Mirnograd, are they going to pull them out? We don't know. On the other hand, we could be seeing Ukrainian reservists pouring in from that highway now that it's opened. We'll keep our eyes on it, and I will certainly let you know. But let's take a look at what, according to the Ukrainians, Pokrovk has cost Russia in just the last year. Remember, the push has been going on for 21 months. These numbers are only for the last year. We can start with almost 10,000 unalived soldiers. That does not count the 1,200 that were lost in just the last couple weeks there. 255 tanks, 433 armored vehicles, 343 artillery and multi-launch rocket systems, 78 air defense systems, 4,553 transport vehicles, 65 ammunition and fuel depots, which does not include all the souls sent to Jesus over the last 72 hours. The 3 APCs that were destroyed in a failed river crossing today, and the ammo depot and fuel depot that went up in spectacular fashion last night near Donetsk. The Ukrainians are conducting 10 to 15 counterattacks a day, while the Russians are launching as many as 90 attacks. Ukraine defense continues to accomplish a difficult task and stand firm in Pokrovk, though no one can say how long they'll be able to keep that up. So we're watching, and I think you're right, Den. Right, Den sums it up pretty nicely here. I would assume Ukraine has a strategic plan protecting their own people as a priority. That does seem to be the modus operandi for the Ukrainians, to give up land slowly as possible, but give it up to save lives. Trade land for time and lives. Yep. I do not disagree. Now, on the subject of the coal mines and the Russians hitting the electrical infrastructure, right? The civilian electrical infrastructure. Ukraine is just having no more of that. It's a war crime. For 3 winters, the Ukrainians have not been hitting Russian energy infrastructure, not turning out the lights. Ukraine is done with that. They have been warning Russia for months that if they start another winter strike campaign against civilian infrastructure here, they will get it back. Ukraine has now begun its own winter strike campaign. To quote Robert Magyar of Magyar's Birds, Ukraine will mirror the attacks of the Russians. The Russian campaign, the Ukrainian campaign against Russian infrastructure, seems to be signaling its willingness and desire to black out Western and Southern Russia, bringing the war home to everyday Russians. In the last 3 weeks, we have seen the Ukrainians target high voltage substations, thermal plants across the region, including Frontline station in Volgograd, the Rilsk occupation headquarters for the Northern Command in Kursk, the Kostovo thermal power plant in Nizhny Novgorod, the Vladimir substation in Vladimir, Russia, Belgorod thermal power plant, as well as the Oriol thermal power plant. 29 separate strikes targeting the Russian power grid. In the latest strike overnight last night, Ukrainian drones struck the Kostroma GRES power plant in the city of Volgovichensk. This is one of Russia's largest thermal power plants, producing a full 1.5% of all of Russia's power needs. You take this offline, that's 1% of all of Russia's electricity. And of course, because of its placement, it feeds Moscow. So you're going to black out Moscow. Now, the regional governor claimed there was no disruption to services, despite the presence of a large fire on the territory of the plant. And these plants are enormous. It's entirely possible that even though they may have struck some critical piece of it, that it stayed up and running. And that is the claim that the governor is making. A major fire broke out following drone strikes last night near Simferopol on Crimea. Reports also emerged of explosions and fires near the Havardadiska oil depot and in the area of the Samara Fall thermal power plant, though we do not have confirmation that that was the target. Ukrainian officials have not commented on these reports as of the time of this recording. 380 million barrels. 380 million barrels of Russian oil are now stranded at sea with no port to berth into. 380 million barrels of oil as Russian oil exports crash by 30% since the Lukoil Rosneft sanctions were placed on those companies. Chinese buying of Russian oil is down an estimated 40 to 45%. The Indians are following close behind. Then, of course, you have the reality of two ops, where the export terminal is closed. That's a forced reduction in export of 20%. Huge, huge, as Bernie Sanders would say. The GUR reports that the partisan group Freedom of Russia has struck dozens of trains targeting military supply of ammunition, weapons, and personnel transport to the front. Now, dig it. Partisans are busy. The Atesh partisan group published intel on a steel plant that provides steel for the construction of missiles, tanks, etc. Dig this. Guess where they got the lead from? They got the lead from a disgruntled worker who claims he hasn't been paid in months. Can you imagine going to work every day and you don't get a paycheck? This is defense sector. This is supposed to be Russia's war economy. These are supposed to be the best paying jobs with the most reliable payment. And the workers aren't getting paid. And this is happening all over Russia. How long can this go? Right, Eli? Honest to God, makes you sick. Do you know, under Trump now, between his two terms, the federal government in the United States has been shut down for 73 days. All other government shutdowns under all other presidents total only 53 days. Trump is on his way to having single-handedly kept the federal government closed 2/3 of all the days it's ever been closed. And you cannot tell me that that is not by design, that it is not what he wants. It's what he wants. He's trying to create a real-life Hunger Games with himself as the master of ceremonies. Because that is all he sees the world. That's all he sees, man. Okay. Russia claims it began serial production of jet-powered glide bombs, which may be capable of 200-kilometer flights. Holy shit. Now this is a problem, right? Because of course, this is a problem, of course, because if the glide bomb can go 200 miles, then Russian aviation doesn't have to come anywhere close to Ukrainian air defense. And the awful glide bomb campaign that we saw 2023, 2024 is going to resume. Now, it's possible the Air Force, if they had some long-range weapons, might be able to counter that. But I don't know that those are forthcoming from anybody. So we'll have to wait and see. The Russians, if they really can do this jet-powered glide bomb, we'll know about it soon enough. The only good news with that, as I understand it, is that because you have to load the jet fuel, you have to make the bombs smaller. So they will be smaller bombs. That's my understanding. In 2026, NATO will allocate $60 billion to the prioritized Ukrainian requirements list, the Pearl Initiative, for the purpose of weapons for Ukraine. That's about half of the estimated $120 billion defense budget that Ukraine needs to be able to fight this war next year. In Poland, or rather, a representative of the Territorial Defense, Oleksandr Mushenko. I listened to an interview with this guy today, and he had some very insightful things to say. Poland has its own sovereign right to defend itself, he made the argument. And in the absence of the desired support from Brussels, he believes, and I think he's quite right, that it is perfectly natural for Poland to not wait for its partners and instead begin building its own drone wall now, which is precisely what the Poles have begun doing. They are building their own drone wall, and they are not waiting for the rest of EU or NATO. They have signed contracts with South Korea for armaments. They are building up their own stockpiles. They are coordinating and learning from the Ukrainians about how to build territorial defense forces, studying how to build national resistance forces, how they work, and how territorial defense brigades are formed and managed. They're already integrating with NATO in the reconnaissance in the Baltic, right? The Baltic Sentry Program. So Poland is doing its own thing to protect and preserve its own sovereignty in the face of Russian provocation in the form of drone incursions into Polish airspace. The South Korea Yonhap media outlet, citing South Korean intelligence sources and sources in the South Korean parliament, said that North Korea is sending 5,000 engineering troops to Russia, principally to act as sappers, that is, deminers, right? They're going to go out with demining equipment. They're going to clear the fields on behalf of the Russians. But apparently 5,000 North Korean sappers are on their way to Kursk right now. God, this is the kind of thing that Russian foreign intelligence services are circulating allegations that NATO and the EU are planning to sabotage the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, cause a meltdown, and blame Russia. Every accusation is a confession. This is not the first time. It grinds. Every accusation is a confession. This is not the first time. It grinds. It's their fault. They have done nothing to secure that plant. They want it there for its nuclear blackmail. This is just another example of Russian nuclear blackmail or attempts at nuclear blackmail against the West. No one should fall for this. No one should believe this. The Ukrainians certainly don't want to unleash a nuclear hell, another nuclear Armageddon on their own territory. They've been through it. This is nonsense of the first order, this bullshit. Okay, in the Russian papers today, Moskovicom Smolensk is not too happy with Donald Trump. The headline was "A Year of Misplaced Hopes." They are very disappointed with Donald Trump, who has demonstrated his inability to negotiate a settlement to the Ukraine conflict on terms acceptable to Moscow, close quotes. The President of the United States behaves like a butterfly, flitting from flower to flower. But no, that is unfair to butterflies. This is quote, end quote, out of Moskovicom Smolensk. Those noble insects leave a plant only when business is finished, as opposed to Donald Trump, who lands and then, despite the conditions on the ground, boasts of his victory. Ugh. So the MK certainly sees through Donald Trump, and in no unflattering terms. Rossisaya Gazetia published some economic data today, which does seem to align with data from the IMF. They published growth inside Russia in Q1 of this year was 1.4%. Growth inside of Russia in Q2 was 1.1%. It nearly halved in Q3 to 0.6%. And RG did not want to speculate on what Q4 might look like, because, of course, many economists are predicting that the number will be negative and that Russia will officially be in a recession starting right about now. Nezvimaya Gazetia published economic data on unprofitable companies, and that companies losing money are growing, the percentage of the Russian business. So according to the Russian Statistics Agency, the share of companies in the red has increased to 30%. Of 44,000 businesses reporting earnings, fully 1/3 are losing money. These include key industries like transport, utilities, energy, and the railroad sector, which is now predicting that overall freight demand will be down 6% this year. Pensioners' living standards are collapsing. Today, a pensioner brings home about 1/4 of what the average Russian salary was. That means retirement results in a 4-fold decrease in your standard of living. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about it for my top line news stuff. I want to thank Arna, who is the sponsor of this live. Thank you, man. And I want to encourage somebody else, please, to maybe sponsor a live. If you like this channel and you want to keep us on the air, do me a favor and sponsor a live. Thanks. Feisty Saz. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. And of course, to the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk, Maddie, Feisty, Jay, Pete, and Travis. Hey, Michael Boucher. What are you wowing about there, Feisty? Hey, Refurb. So, guys, that's it for my top line news stuff. Who's got questions, comments, points of observation? Oh, you can't reset your PayPal password. How about Venmo, pal? You got Venmo? I do have great mods. Oh, you're not my feisty. You're a new feisty, Feisty says. Any updates on Donbass? Well, I talked an awful lot about Pokrovsk tonight, Guard. It's a mess. It's really, really a mess. Oh, the password reset thing? Yeah, well, I do a little consulting. I recommended to Ted Greenow that he turn on multi-factor authentication for Facebook, but not everybody is interested in technology. Yes, Russia. Well, Russia was tricking Indian people into the war. We don't know if they're still doing it. 32 people, 32 Russians were not all Russians. They were not all Russian. There was at least one Tajik, a couple of Kazakhs, but 32 Russian operatives were arrested inside India and charged with human trafficking for just a thought, Ted, just a thought. There are so many scams out there, and two-factor authentication does make a difference. And really, these days, it's pretty non-intrusive unless you log in and out on many different devices. Then it's a little intrusive. But for basic setup, it's good. So, Michael, Venmo is the same as PayPal. Why, if you're having trouble with PayPal, why wouldn't you just get Venmo? Like, I don't, it doesn't make any sense to me, but that's okay. That's you, whatever. So, thanks, Feisty. I forget what I was, India. So India pretty much shut that down. However, we believe that as many as 15,000 Indians were shanghaied into the Russian army. And the disposition of those Indian nationals is unclear. India demanded their return, and I am not certain that that happened. Now the big recruiting ground is Africa, right? We just saw, I forget where they were from. They were mostly all from I think Mali. If I'm not mistaken, it was Mali. There was a company of African mercenaries captured. I want to say in Luhansk last week. About a half a dozen of them survived the assault by the Ukrainians, and they were taken prisoner. But the reconstituted Wagner group, which is now known as the Africa Corps, which is a cringy thing to say out loud, but the Africa Corps guys are shanghaiing Africans from a dozen different African nations right now. That's a big deal. The air raid sirens going off now. I think Matthew Whitaker left Kyiv today. Matthew Whitaker is the U.S. representative to NATO. He was here in Kyiv meeting with Zelensky and some others. And if I'm not mistaken, his train left today. So we no longer have that air defense. Feisty is the OG. There's only one Feisty. You will notice they spell it different. They spell it differently. Here, I'll crack. Let me do this. Just to give you the flavor of the moment, the reality of everyday life here on the ground. That is the sound of the air raid alarm. And this is a daily occurrence here. You can think of this as your daily immersion into life in Kyiv. Yeah, it is unreal, Liam. It is unreal. Ah, the British one. Alarm clock. Well, hopefully it won't happen again tonight and I'll be able to sleep. I don't like the not sleeping. I gotta tell you. On a lighter note, how was the soup I was making? It was excellent, by the way. Safety of the cities of Dnipro and Mykolaiv. Dnipro and Mykolaiv are much closer to, well, Mykolaiv especially, is much closer to the front line. Mykolaiv gets hit every single day by all kinds of weapons who are too short range to get to Dnipro. I would suggest that probably Dnipro gets hit the way that Kyiv does, with sporadic drone and missile attacks. The sirens do not always wake me, no. No, they don't, to be honest. I mean, I used to live in Manhattan, right? I'm a pretty heavy sleeper. Not very much wakes me. I'll tell you, Iskander, the KN23s and the Iskander M's, they wake me up every time. Every time. Nope, it just goes at the beginning when the air raid is declared, and then you can check your app or you can get notifications from your app that it's over, when it's over, or if it's continuing or ongoing, what we expect is coming in. Where can you go if they start falling? To a shelter. Oh, no, this is, let's see, what is this? Truskavetska. Truskavetska. The sparkling mineral water of choice for Give Me a Minute. I wish I could get a sponsorship like that. The TikTok shop is always sending me shit like, I don't know, shit I would never ask any of you to buy. I'm like, no. What is the closest the bombs have been near you? About 100 yards from here, there's a park where the remnants of an Iskander came down once. Just a couple blocks from here is the apartment building that my buddy Johnny used to live in. That was hit by a drone. That's it, Renvox. Does it ever do your head in reflecting on the amount and horror of battle deaths? Ben, I don't dwell on it very much. I mean, I know that it's happening. When I meet people who have been affected by it, it brings it very home, which is everybody, by the way. People don't talk about it, but when they do, I try to listen. But it's not conceivable. I mean, you can't really conceive of it. It's too much. It's like trying to think of what 8 light minutes is. Well, that's the distance from here to the sun. Okay, well, how far is that? Well, 93 million miles. 93 million miles. How do you conceive of 93 million miles? It's awfully hard for our little primate brains to wrap our heads around that. Well, thanks, Ben. Twisted Sister, we believe that to be true. The video is amazing. Now, here I can type it in here. You can go to this guy's, where's the comment thing? There it is. You can go, this guy has a name as bad as mine. Suchomimos. If you search for that on YouTube and look at his latest videos, I think he's got it labeled as an ammo dump. He didn't have, when he made his video, he didn't have the information that I have right now because it wasn't released yet. But he published video of the hit. Holy shit, dude. You see the blast wave, right? Like when the hit happens, there's a secondary detonation, and it is so powerful that that a wall of compressed air is visible on the footage from some dude's cell phone. And then when the blast wave hits the guy, like you can see the phone shake, you can feel it. It's astonishing. According to Ukrainian military intelligence, who carried out this operation in conjunction with the 414th Separate Special Forces Assault Brigade and Magyar's Birds Drone Brigade. This operation was planned for months, painstakingly put together to hit the pre-launch UAV facility when it was full of Shaheds and ammunition. 1,000 Shaheds is what they're claiming, and 1,500 warheads. Yes. Huge. Ukraine's got great weapons, Colin. That is not the problem. It is Russia's deep pockets that are the problem. Boom, baby, boom, Mike Kelly. Boom, baby, boom. So yeah, Twisted Sister, to the best of my knowledge, that is correct. Also, the Ukrainians are saying that they're not going to take it. They're not going to take it anymore. You saw that, Mike, right? You could see it. It's not often in this war that you get video where you can see it, but you can see it in that one. So I tend to believe I tend to believe the Ukrainians because you know why? The Ukrainians keep showing up with evidence of their claims. They keep bringing the receipts. Unlike the Russians. The Russians are talking this sabotage bullshit about ZNPP, and they're not providing any evidence at all. Those deep pockets are getting shallower and shallower. You're not wrong. Hey, Paul Sisson, I'm doing just fine, thanks. They do. That's the big difference, Twisted Sister. That's the big difference. You called your aunt Twisted Sister? She must have been the fun aunt. Okay, so it's just about the top of the hour. Let me again thank Arna, who is the sponsor of this live. Let me please encourage others to sponsor lives. I have no live sponsor tomorrow or anytime next week. Cynthia's not here, is she? Because I am out of grocery money. She usually takes pity on me when I don't have grocery money. So big thanks to Arn, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Big thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. Lars, who has the Discord server. And, of course, the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Chrissy Locke. Have a good evening. Nobody has to apologize if they can't do it, okay? That's not a thing here. This is a free service as long as I can continue to provide it. Good night, everyone. Good night, Sarah. Thanks, Mike Kelly. Thanks, Lars. Good night. Good night, Chef Deb. Good night, Marius. Me too, Fish Whisper. Me too. Good night, Jerio. Thanks, Flip. Good night, Little Red. Take care, Mike. Take care, Gary. Night, Feisty. All right, everybody. Make it a great day. Have a pleasant tomorrow.